Hi everyone, and welcome to StudioJake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy. Thank you so much for joining me today on my vidcast, where I talk about all things pop culture, from film to television to anime, and so much more. I would really appreciate it if you would like this video, share it out to all your friends, leave me a little comment, tell me what you think, and of course, subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscriptions. I'm at way over 800, so any gentle taps or smashes of that sub button really helps me out. Thank you for supporting smaller independent creators like myself. All right. It's a day that it is ending in Y, so that means that Warner Brothers Discovery is in some trouble, or at least some controversy. So I'm not going to rehash the whole tale of what's going on at Warner Brothers. You know, it's meaningless to say they're making some really bad decisions. When they were bought by the Discovery Channel, man, how humiliating is that? You were once a big five in Hollywood, and then the Discovery Channel buys you. Discovery put into place David Zaslav as the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, or the newly formed Warner Brothers Discovery. He immediately took a hatchet to the whole company, from Cartoon Network to CNN and, of course, WB. And he has been, relentless in trying to do cost-cutting measures when it comes to these subsidiaries that Warner Brothers Discovery owns. And what's really interesting is he's kind of embroiled in some controversy when it comes to the media. And what's laughable about this is that everyone is acting surprised by it. So this is from Deadline. David Zaslav article taken down by GQ after Warner Brothers Discovery raises objections. Ooh, spooky. GQ magazine has removed an article about Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav from its website after the company objected to the article. The unflattering piece by freelance film critic Jason Bailey appeared Monday. It cataloged a number of moves by Zaslav, particularly decisions at Warner Brothers, Max, and TCM, which have made him the most hated man in Hollywood. Bailey wrote that Zaslav is only good at breaking things, comparing him to the businessman played by Richard Gere in Pretty Woman. The article went through a round of edits before being fully removed from the site without explanation after the company complained and Bailey asked for his byline to be removed. One change removed the most hated man line and replaced it with the face of Rocky in Controversial New Period in Hollywood. Archived versions of the original and revised version have been circulating on social media, and the Washington Post included both in its piece about the flap. Entertainment site Showbiz 411 had the first report about the disappearance of the article. So, they're trying to say GQ has kind of come out and said that it identified several errors in Bailey's reporting, and that's why it was removed, and that they regret the editorial decision. But, and then, of course, Warner Brothers Discovery released a statement saying we had nothing to do with it, blah, 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 and on and on and on. And a lot of people have pointed out, though, the Newhouse family, which owns Condé Nast, has seats on the Warner Brothers Discovery board and a stake in the company. While that structural element has noted in coverage of the article dusted by the Post-New York Times, a WBD rep emphatically denied it played a role in how events unfolded. Okay, so why is everyone surprised by this? That's my reaction to what is going on right now with this whole GQ taking down an article. The media in Hollywood have been in collusion for years. And in fact, it takes places like Netflix to actually produce content that is critical of the media. Now, Netflix has had its share of controversy as well, but with Warner Brothers, it is very interesting watching the ebbs and flows of everything since AT&T dumped the company and handed it off to the Discovery Channel. And it's just so bizarre to me because the media has been doing this for years. Think about the Harvey Weinstein scandal. Now, recently there was a movie that came out that tried to revise history, make it like these two edgy female reporters just kind of stumbled on the story and then followed the web and this and this and that. And, it made sort of a brushing of critique of the media. And that's not what happened. The only reason Harvey Weinstein was exposed is because of the sting operation that was done, where that woman he was harassing had recorded him. That was the only reason this blew up. The fact of the matter is the media covered for Harvey Weinstein. There were reports about his behavior, beating people in clubs, touching women inappropriately, behaving inappropriately. There were reports about that going back way into the early 2000s. I mean, think of who he has aligned himself with in the past. I mean, some of the Hollywood players. I mean, I don't believe for a second that that his bros that he hung out with, Quentin Tarantino, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, I don't believe for a second that they didn't know anything. I don't believe for a second that Oprah, didn't know anything. I don't believe for one second that Meryl Streep didn't know anything. She was just safe because, she's a little old for a guy like Harvey Weinstein. He prefers young and up-and-coming actresses. He was basically the Dan Schneider of the whole Hollywood scene. And I don't believe for one second that Brad Pitt confronted him. Please. Brad Pitt plays a manly man in the movies. It's a role he plays. But anyway, I digress. My point is that no one should be surprised if allegedly Warner Brothers pressured GQ to remove this article. GQ is part of the media, and it's part of the corporate press, the larger, what some people refer to as the mainstream media. I prefer corporate press because guys like me, we're not me in particular, but I just mean independent channels, we're becoming the mainstream media. And, it's just so stunning to me. So, you look at, I was looking at headlines from like the Washington Post, from Variety magazine, from all these different media outlets, and they were just so aghast, I tell you, that an outlet, a media outlet, would suppress an article critical of a Hollywood player. There's no reason for them not to be critical. Think about, it's not just Hollywood. The media has been doing this with politics. Think about how the LA Times suppressed knowledge of Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger's affair, right? They were sitting on that for years. They knew about it for years, but they knew they couldn't run it because the people of California wouldn't care. He was a very popular governor because he was actually doing things that helped the economy. Now, I can acknowledge this, even though I disagree a lot with what Arnold has done, especially with his dumb confections about the COVID and other things. But I can acknowledge he was a good governor of California, on top of being one of the greatest action heroes of all time. That being said, the LA Times sat on this article about him having an affair and did nothing with it until they knew he was unpopular. The economy in California hit kind of a downturn, and then they ran the story because they knew he was unpopular, because they knew if they ran it when he was popular, no one would care. And it might even make him seem more relatable to the voters. So they waited when he was down to kick him. Disgusting. And it's, not just with Republican governors, they do it with Democrats as well. There's a media outlet who has footage of at the time, candidate Barack Obama giving a speech in a Weather Underground member's house. No, but they won't release it. They somehow acquired the footage of it and the speech in full, and they refused to run it because they knew it would probably be detrimental. The press has been covering up for their friends for decades. And, while it's sad that this happened, that GQ removed this article, I'm not familiar with Jason Bailey. For all I know, he's a terrible film critic. For all I know, he's a terrible columnist. I'm not familiar with his work, but even still, no one should be surprised that the media is running interference for their friends in Hollywood. Back to Netflix, I've been noticing this pattern in Netflix, particularly with their documentaries, where they're very highly critical of the media. Their documentary series, Trial by Media, is all about that, about how the media would take big cases and just about destroy the court system around it with their exaggerated reporting, and it's true. I hate to say it, but the media is not interested in being the fifth estate. They're interested in telling you how to think and what to think, and instead of just giving you the facts and letting you form your own opinion. They want to tell you this is how you're supposed to think. This is what you're supposed to think, without giving you the where and everything in between, right? It's ridiculous, it's silly, and no one should be surprised by this. The media censors stories like this all the time. Let's stop pretending to be surprised. It is silly and ridiculous, and I have no doubt we'll hear more about this further down the road. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you'll give it a thumbs up, that you'll leave me a comment, tell me what you think, that you'll share it out with your friends, and of course, consider subscribing to StudioJake. I cover all kinds of nerd and pop culture topics, including film, television, anime, comic books, and so much more. I hope that you'll also head over to my main website, StudioJakeMedia.com, where I have even more news, views, and commentary. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, head over to my locals page. That's studiojakemedia.locals.com. It's the best way to support me. I'm trying to build a little community there. I have exclusive reviews and articles, so definitely head over there and check it out. And I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.